Erin and I were trying to decide what we were going to do with our Saturday, which, let's be honest, just means where we were going to ride our bikes on a beautiful day like this. I remembered an article my dad gave me from the Cleveland Plain dealer about the North Coast Inland Trail, which I'd never been to. So we drove up to Elyria and parked at a trailhead that we thought was going to be mile 0. It wasn't. More on that later. The beginning here was this little section of trail, and then there were signs for a couple trails, so we were a little confused. But it just turns out to get to the beginning portion of this trail, we had to get onto this bridge because there's actually 2 bridges and there's just one-way traffic on both of them. So it made a lot more sense once we were on here and realized that's what was going on and on the way back. I didn't realize that the North Coast Inland Trail was more extensive than I had thought. The way it appears on Google Maps bike direction just shows kind of one section of the rail trail that's very straight and looks like a rail trail usually would on a map. But when me and Erin got going here and got onto the actual paved bike path, we stopped and we were looking at a sign because it said we were at mile 15 and then we came on mile 16 and we're really a little confused because we're like, wait, I thought we were starting at mile 0. What we realized is that a different trail that they still consider part of the system takes you up to the lake in Lorraine. So if we were heading in the other direction, you could go all the way up to the lake. These maps are kind of cool. They were more like subway style. So they're like simplified to show you just the different stops and distances. And yeah, after we looked at that map, we pulled out our phones and looked at a more extensive map just to be like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool to know. The trail is planned to be all the way from Pennsylvania to Indiana, but right now it's from Lorraine. As I said, you would go south to where we started in Elyria, then it goes out to Genoa, however that's pronounced. I'm sure you eviscerate me in the comments like you guys always like to for my pronunciations. But so we only rode the section that was the rail trail in Lorain County, so Elyria to Wakeman, and it's roughly southwest for a while and then more due west. That was a cool little shelter right there where you could rest in the shade. For this day, I didn't really have high expectations for the trail, but I saw that it went through some towns, so I'm like, at least there will be that. You know, we were going to go Elyria to Wakeman, as I mentioned, and we saw a spot in Wakeman that we figured we'd stop, get lunch, turn around, and ride back. We have just ridden some rail trails more in southern Ohio down past Columbus near London that are on the Ohio to Erie Trail that are so boring and huge farmland that looking at this on the map, I thought that's kind of what we were getting into.
Like and subscribe. Like. Whoa.
But it was actually much more of a mix. As you can see, a lot of woods have grown up around this trail, so there was a lot of shade out here on this hot, sunny day. I think it's because this train line was abandoned so long ago. The other things were there were little river valleys, and you can see it's a privacy fence because there's yards there. Here we're passing by a town where they're having their Juneteenth festival, and so we're on the outskirts of the town, and there's a park here with the big celebration going on. So there was just kind of a lot of that along the way. And there was more chill, like farmland area as well. But it wasn't just out there in the middle of a mega farm that's super boring. And that's kind of what I was saying about the Ohio to Erie Trail in those spots down there. There's just some that are just, man, it's just telephone poles and soybeans as far as the eye could see. This has some of the old train stops. Here's the one in Oberlin. On the way back, we actually stop in Oberlin, so I'll talk about that then. So yeah, just a pleasant surprise when your expectations are low and then they're exceeded. Again, don't get me wrong, this is a rail trail. The only elevation of note, I think, was that bridge we climbed in the beginning and then we'll climb again at the end. I think we had like 150 feet for this 40-mile round-trip ride, so yeah, not a lot. You can see here there are a couple zigzags. You do jump out onto a road in this section for a little bit. Nice shoulder, nice bike lane. It's not very far, so yeah, just very comfortable to ride. I don't think anybody would have a problem with the roads we had to go on. There is one a little later where there wasn't really a bike lane on it, but again, really chill road. I guess after Wakeman, where we turned around, there is 5 miles on a rural road. Again, that'll be linked below. You can watch that video and see. There aren't any shoulders, but still it looked pretty rural and chill. For people like us, not a big deal. I know there's some people who do refuse to ride on any road, so be that what it is. So they are working on new sections of the trail. I was reading about that as well before I made this video, so hopefully more and more of it gets connected. Indiana to PA seems a way off, but Cleveland to Toledo seems doable in the next number of years, so not too far out on that. This is entering the small town of Kipton here. We didn't really stop. We did stop at this park on the way back because of...
Oh boy. Oh no.
The
Great Kipton train wreck.
Might have to stop on the way back and pay some respects.
Oh boy.
Feel like we know a thing or two about train wrecks where we come from. So I'm definitely the one in the group who is always stopping to read all the historical markers, which we will do on the way back. And the other little thing we were kind of joking about there at the end is there's a historical marker here in my city about a big train wreck. So we were relating it, and it's kind of become a thing to stop and pay our respects at that train wreck historical marker. Anyways, you could see there, that was the other little road section I was talking about. Not a big deal. And then this is the last section of the trail. It runs along the road there, and it takes you into Wakeman. So like I mentioned, that was going to be our turnaround spot, our lunch spot, and then also where, if you continue on, you would be on 5 miles of road. Anyways, back to the historical marker. So what was really interesting about the Great Kipton train wreck is a mail train collided with a passenger train. And it was because the passenger train conductor's watch was off. He was supposed to pull over on a siding, but he didn't because his watch was 4 minutes off. They ended up going to a watchmaker in Cleveland who started approving watches for railroad use. And his last name was Ball. And it is literally where we get the phrase, get on the ball from. So I don't know. I love history like that. Obviously it's a tragedy, but super interesting that this guy, this jeweler in Cleveland, cool, started approving watches, and that's how we started to avoid more train wrecks and got a phrase that we all say and have no idea where it came from. Here you can see a beautiful river valley, really cool old bridge on the way into Wakeman. There was a little bit of gravel there, and then it was out onto just kind of the back streets around the backside of their main street to get to the Wakeman elevator, Wakeman grain elevator, which is where, and we ate, but the actual restaurant in there is called the Craft Beer Barn, I believe. Yes, that's what it is. And yeah, it was a nice little spot. We had lunch, we had sandwiches. I did not realize until I just rewatched the Plain Dealers YouTube video, you could actually camp here. So, and he said the owner is so nice that it was cold when he was camping. He actually set up his tent on their patio. So very friendly trail town. This is also part of the Buckeye Trail. So I guess that's a big draw. People stop in here who are hiking the whole Buckeye Trail. If you know that, it's a big loop around the state, and lots of parts come through, even the area where I live. This is where we had our lunch, obviously, and then we rode down their main street for a little while just to check it out instead of heading right back onto the trail. There was a shoulder for a while, so yeah, just to ride some different miles and get a different view for a little bit before hopping back, because we were just doubling back on the exact same path we came on. It does look like there might have been some possibility to hit some of the country roads and make a loop out of this instead of just having the simple out and back. But it's funny, I start to think like, oh, out and back, that's kind of boring. But I probably do that 3-4 times a week around here anyways on trails I ride all the time. So yeah, there's that. That's the other thing with me. I'll ride anything, especially something I haven't seen before. Even if there was a place I wouldn't go back to, which this place I would, and I want to ride more of the trail, at least I've got to see it and know what it looks like. This next part is a familiar sight. It's me reading a historical marker. Well, everyone else rides off. Pretty known for it. Everyone always, then I just summarize all the history I learned to everyone else I'm riding with. But touche Erin on yelling, get on the ball, as she rolled away from that historical marker. We decided to break off the trail and head into Oberlin. I wanted to check out the small city. I had never been there before and wanted to see it. It's mostly a college town. It was originally founded as a Christian community, and the school's goal was to train missionaries to head out west. But Oberlin has a really interesting history with abolitionism. I read a lot about it. I would definitely go to Wikipedia and check it out if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Just a really interesting back and forth with Ohio and the legislator and Columbus and all that. And so it ended up having a lot of freed slaves settle here. It was a big part of the Underground Railroad and all that kind of thing. The college is now a liberal arts school, and it has a big music conservatory. So we actually rode through town, checked that out, and then we cut over and rode through campus a bit. The city's kind of mixed in with campus and spots, but then when you get into the older part of campus, as you'll see here, it does become more closed and what you kind of expect a college to look like. So the trail is federally designated as part of U.S. Bike Route 30, and I know I've talked to some people in YouTube comments who have been coming from Detroit or places in Michigan and riding through Ohio that will use the trail. I'm actually planning on going to an event in Ann Arbor again at the end of July, and I was thinking if my time and money work out that I would ride to the event, and this trail would definitely be part of that. It would be a cool way. So to head up, I'd probably skip a little bit of the beginning and then jump on and go through Toledo and up and all that. So I'll be interested in the people who have done that to compare notes. So I definitely want to ride the rest of this trail, whether it's an overnight or bike packing trip, or it's on my way to Ann Arbor, or just a day trip like this was. Anyways, that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Peace.